Hi everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, whatcassread. Today, I need some water already. Sorry about that. Today, I want to talk to you about some things that I have read this year that I've really, really, really loved. And to be honest, if I hadn't read any of these things, my reading count, my book count, my page count wouldn't be nearly as high because I had quite the slumpy middle of the year in terms of reading. And I'm talking about none other than Dramione fanfiction. Oh, I was introduced to the world of Dramione fanfiction last year. And it took my heart and it didn't let it go. And I've read some real knockout bangers. So I want to talk about, I guess, the two different categories that I really, really love, and then highlight some of the ones that I think are among the best. I've read a good chunk of Dramione fanfiction, not every single one, obviously, and not every single one has made this list of the ones that I have read, but I want to point out my favorites. I think, like so many people, I started with just one, and I loved it so much that I learned an entirely new craft of bookbinding. Because I loved it so much, I had to have a physical copy of it. So I bound this myself. I started with Manacled. And Manacled changed my life. And I cannot even put into words how epic this book is. I follow so many Manacled fan art accounts. Alternate universe, Voldemort wins. If the events of Harry Potter played out almost to a letter, but Harry didn't win, Harry didn't end up solving the mystery that is getting rid of Voldemort, what would the world look like? And that's what Manacled is. And so that's why I really wanted to try it, because number one, everybody was talking about it. Number two, I was really intrigued in this idea of how dark would it get? How dark does it become if Voldemort won? And this is the darkest that it could possibly be. This is one of the most dark books I've ever read, and my heart was ripped out and stomped on and repeatedly, and I wanted to come back for more. This starts off pretty closely after the Battle of Hogwarts, and it is told, oh, there's Luna Girl. It is told from Hermione's point of view. You know, after the Battle of Hogwarts, she has been captured. She's been taken into this dungeon and just kind of left there. So she's there for, she doesn't know how long. But when she comes out, some of her memories have been altered. And the Death Eaters being in charge, they kind of want to unlock the memories that she has. Voldemort is very interested in what she knows about the Resistance, what she knows about the Order of the Phoenix. Well, one of the big things about this world is in the time that Hermione had been locked up, since the Death Eaters rose to power, they installed this breeding program. That's right. Some of these pure blood Death Eater elite are able to have a sex slave to try and repopulate the wizarding world, because Voldemort, he understands that magical blood is very, very valuable, but some of these pure blood relationships are not producing magical offspring. So he is utilizing sex slaves, which is where it gets super dark, right? So it comes into Hermione is then kind of sold, given away to Draco, and all the things that go back and forth. One of the big things is that we get to a point where Hermione's memories start coming back to her. So when the memories start coming back to her, then we get to go back to the beginning when there's an active Order of the Phoenix resistance. Why did Harry fail? Hermione's role in that version of the Order of the Phoenix and the Resistance fighters, and Draco's role with the Death Eaters. It's so good, so freaking good. It's more than a 6-star for me. I was like I said, I literally took up a whole new hobby just so I could learn how to bookbind, just so I could bind and have a physical copy of this story for myself. So the next one that I bound up, and I think this might have been the second Dramione fanfic that I read. I wanted to go, again, dark, alternate universe, Voldemort wins situation, and this is The Auction. Okay, so Manacled was written by Senlinyu. The Auction is written by Loves Bidka 8. It is once again a situation where what would happen if we get all the way to the Battle of Hogwarts and Harry doesn't figure out the right answer, and what happens when the Death Eaters and Voldemort take power. So in this world, all of our beloved friends from Hogwarts have all been rounded up. The Death Eaters decide, and Voldemort decide, that they're gonna auction off their captives. And so they could be auctioned off for sex slave reasons, but they could also be auctioned off for like working people, slavery to the bone types of situations. And like, they've won. They've captured all these half-bloods and muggleborns, so they're gonna do with them what they will. Hermione is a very, very prized prisoner of war because of her relationship with Harry and the fact that she is just like this ridiculously smart witch. And so her bidding price is extremely high, and Draco ends up buying her. This author came out with like a happy version of this story of like what would happen in a world where Harry won, and, you know, what are the consequences that we're living with post-war. I love a little, like, they're all post-war ones that I end up loving. So she has like 2 companions that are like the happy version of the story, and she wrote those first, but she kept alluding to like what would have happened if the dark side won, and she kept alluding to this idea of an auction that the Death Eaters wanted to have for all of our favorite characters. And so then she came out with like a 1-volume alternate universe to her own alternate universe. And this one is the best one. I've read all 3 of them. This one's the best one. So you don't have to read them all. I didn't even read them in order. I read this one first, and then I went back to the other 2, and I loved those 2, and then I went back to this one. So I actually read The Auction twice this year. Okay, so I have one that's kind of like in between dark and light, and this isn't, I haven't like completed this bookbind yet, so I have to be very, very careful with it. But this is kind of like what I have envisioned for it. This is The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy, written by Speechwriter. So this is an alternate version of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And the alternate version of it is, we start at the tower, Draco pulls out his wand to go kill Dumbledore. What if Draco accepts Dumbledore's help? What if Draco says yes to Dumbledore? So that's where this whole alternate offshoot starts. And it falls in line like pretty closely with the events of the Deathly Hallows, but just told in like a really different order. But it was still so believable. And that's why these are my favorites of the fan fictions that I've read, is because there's nothing about this that doesn't seem like those aren't things that Harry, Ron, Hermione, Draco, everybody would say. This one is in between. It's got some dark elements. It's got some light elements. These are all Dramione, so they're going to have a little bit of romance to them. The Auction and Manacled, much more romance heavy than The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy. So if you're looking for something that could be fun, but you like don't really want a lot of romance, then I would go for The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy, because it's like a nice in-between, too sappy versus too dark. I kind of teeter back and forth between dark and really sappy ones. So the first super sappy one that I gave a try to, and I was like, we'll see if I like it, but if I don't, I'm just going to go back to all of my like post-war Voldemort has won versions. And this one is Remain Nameless. This is a very popular one by Hey Jude 19. This is so good. This made me realize, oh, okay, there can be some happy endings with Dramione that don't involve Harry being dead and Voldemort winning, and there can be some like, what if everything played out the way that we know that it played out, but just as adults, things went different. It's so good. If you are into cozy romance, contemporary romance, this is your one. This is your one to try. Remain Nameless. One of the things that I think is very strong in all of these Dramione fanfics is we have to deal with Hermione and Ron. For some reason, Hermione isn't ending up with Ron, and I think all of these fanfic writers took care with that, and it's like, we're not bashing Ron, because there's some out there that are like bashing Ron, but these ones are not, and that's what I like about them. This one made me laugh so hard because there are certain scenes with like Harry and Ginny, and then we've got Ron in there, we've got the Weasleys in there, that like, I'm like, I believe every single part of this conversation. This is exactly how this conversation would happen. What would happen if Hermione had to introduce Draco as her boyfriend to Harry? Like, literally, what would happen? This conversation is exactly what would happen. So good. So Remain Nameless. A couple years after the war, Hermione is working at the Ministry. Draco, he works, oh gosh, where does he work? He works for like a Quidditch scouting agency. Hermione goes to this cafe in Muggle London quite frequently because she just wants to GTFO. Sometimes she just needs to escape being one of the Golden Trio, you know, being one of the people who is there to solve the mystery of the Horcruxes and save the day. She just sometimes wants to escape to the Muggle world to just sit back, relax, and have a cup of coffee. So she goes to this one cafe and she orders her usual, she gets her usual cup of coffee. She turns around and goes to her usual table, and Draco Malfoy, that mofo, is sitting at her usual table. So it all just kind of goes from there. It really is so lovely. It's so good. Remain Nameless. You've got to read it. And then the last like super 5-star that I gave from the ones that I've read this year, Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, written by isthisselfcare. This is the only fan fiction that I like copied another fan binder's cover. So if you've seen this cover, this was used with permission, because if you're interested in learning how to fan bind, there are groups and groups and groups and groups all over Facebook, all over social media. People are willingly file sharing all of these things. That's how I got a hold of some of these typesets and everything, and it's just so much fun. Really cool community. So don't buy your fan bound versions. You must make your own physical copy if you want to be above board and not breaking any laws. If you're buying it, they're the ones breaking the laws, and you should just learn how to do it because it's fun. Okay, so anyways, so if you've seen this cover, yes, this cover, I've used it with permission because I had access to that certain fan binders files. Anyways, so this one is hilarious. This one's so good. If you want, again, another like super contemporary, quirky, full of witty banter romance. I'm not typically that way. The only reason why this one works for me is because it's Draco and Hermione, and because it's like the wizarding world that I've known to love. I don't love contemporary romance otherwise. Draco is an Auror working for the Ministry of Magic, and Hermione is a magical research extraordinaire. She has turned down like several job offers and things from the ministry because she is working on her own thing. She not only scored all top marks in her NEWTs, and she decided she wanted to go to like Muggle medical school, and she also like learned how to become a healer and a researcher. So she's like continuing being this like badass brainiac queen that we've always known and loved, but she's like incorporated magic and Muggle techniques and traditions into her life. What Hermione is up to, the Minister of Magic, it's like a very top secret project, and the Minister of Magic wants her to have like an Auror detail because he fears that if people find out what Hermione has been researching, her life is going to be in danger. And then, you know, but it's really important that she keep working on what she's working on. Malfoy draws the short straw and ends up having to be the Auror assigned to her security detail. This one was fun. It was romantic. It was witty, 5 stars. Loved that one to death. I probably will reread it at some point in time. And then 2 of my honorable mentions that I don't actually have fan binds for yet because I haven't gotten around to it yet. Wait and Hope and Beginning and End. Those are the two names of these like companion books. A modern, lighthearted fantasy. If you love a good amnesia trope, kick it up a notch with magical amnesia, because Hermione has awoken in the hospital and she doesn't have memory of anything that's happening, and all of a sudden she hears someone screaming outside that he wants to see his wife, and it turns out that Draco is the one yelling that, and she's like, what world have I woken up in that I am married to Draco Malfoy? Like, I literally, what? And then it kind of like follows from there, and so we find out how that all came to be, and it's super romantic and super cute. It's so good. I really need to bind those now that I'm like talking about them again. So one book follows Hermione's perspective, and then the other one follows Draco's perspective from like before the accident, so you can see all the events leading up to it. So much fun, so good. So I have become a true Dramione fan. Like I said, if it wasn't for fan fiction, my reading this year would have been so abysmal. I wouldn't have gotten any reading done. I read so much fan fiction this year, and I'm forever grateful for the fan fiction community because of it. So those are my tops of the top. There's still so many that are on my Kindle that I have to read, and when I do read those, I'll definitely give you all updates and give you suggestions for ones that if you're wanting to try out. These ones are among the like super popular ones if you're looking to get into Dramione fan fiction. So there you go. There's a good list to start from your dark to your light. All right, let me know what you thought about these in the comment section below. Have you read any fan fiction? Do you have any good recommendations for me? Go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. And if you've made it this far and you don't know what to comment, let's see. Put a coffee cup emoji in the comment section to let me know that you've made it this far. All right, all of my social media links are down in the comment section below. The small business that I have that I make small batch soap, candles, all that kind of fun thing. And then like, comment, and subscribe. You know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later.